I really don't enjoy stuffy, stodgy meetings where somebody just gets up there and reads from a script. And I enjoy having the presentation more a give and take, so there is absolutely no question that you could ask that I would consider foolish other than one. How do we definitely guarantee to make $1 million?
Yeah.
That one I haven't quite figured out myself.
I'm not staying.
Okay, all right, fair enough. You can come in.
Is this 22?
It sure
Hey,
is.
welcome.
So, what has happened
How are
here
you?
is, on Pumpkin Festival #1, when we had 617 pumpkins or whatever, I was on that committee, and that was the year that we picked up all the pumpkins at nighttime and brought them into the hallway at the UCC church, only to find out that the janitor forgot to turn the heat down. And the next morning, the church smelled like pumpkin pie without the spices. And then we had to the scouts had to bring them out the next day. Obviously, we can't do that sort of a thing anymore because there's way too many. But I have been a part of the food process since then, and until 2 years ago when I retired from the board, I was in charge of all the food vendors. And it was more like a chess game to make sure that every single vendor was not trying to sell pumpkin whoopie pies next to somebody who was selling pumpkin whoopie pies, who was selling next to, same thing all the way down. When you look at the total scope of what we, meaning food vendors, do, it's really amazing what has been done and how it is done. And if it is done correctly, things can go okay. Now, I say that with a very clear understanding. Room 22 is here. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, Doug.
Good to see you. This is a crapshoot because the one thing that we cannot guarantee is the weather. So all of the best made plans of mice and men might go awry if all of a sudden we get, a terrible nor'east rainstorm that then turns to snow, which happened one year to us. And it was awful. But I kept running around and saying, heat it instead, like people who had huge vats of lemonade and didn't know what to do with it because it was ice cold. I said, you've got a net, scoop the ice out, put that thing on the grill and heat it up. Nobody wants to buy hot lemonade. I said, it's like hot tea without the tea. You've got the lemon. Everybody knows what it's going to be like. It is freezing. And they sold out in less than half an hour. So you've got to try and be as flexible as you can. And I am a Scotsman. If I have a nickel, that thing better scream 6 cents before it leaves my hands. I am as cheap as they make them. I want to make the most amount of money that I can possibly make for the least amount of money and with the least amount of effort. All I can do is make suggestions. I cannot and will not beat you over the head with a 2x4 into submission to make sure that you do exactly what you're told. There are no guarantees whatsoever on anything, and I will explain what I mean by that by saying that one year we were in a spot on the main street, and that booth sold hot dogs, hamburgers, cheeseburgers, cotton candy, and soda. And we made like $2,800, $2,900 profit. Next year, the day was a little bit better, the crowd was a little bit larger, we were in the exact same spot selling the exact same thing, and we made about $900. There was no rhyme nor reason to it, other than some days people are hungry, Other days, they're not as hungry. And we want to encourage them to be hungry, and the best way to do that is with smells. So if you are cooking something that has a great aroma, you can't have a fan because that takes electricity. But have somebody yell like this, you know, fanning the aromas out into the world so that people then go, oh God, that smells like sausage with peppers and onions. And they start to salivate, and they've got to have it. It doesn't matter how much it costs, they need it. And that's what our job is, to feed the need. Now, it's like a chess game, insofar as everybody who is selling the same thing is not next to everybody who is selling the exact same thing. That's counterproductive to all of us. Many times, like one of the booths that I will be running with, one of the youth groups that I deal with, will be selling meat. And what would normally go next to us would be people who are doing desserts, and only desserts. They complement each other. What you need to do is to find your niche and then figure out really how many people do you need. That's one of the things that drives people crazy, because their normal comment is, we're just a small organization and it's always the same few who are doing all the work. We don't know if we can do this. Yes, you can. You really can, if you plan in advance. Silly things that also have nothing to do with food. For instance, one person and one person only handles money. If you're touching food, you do not touch money. All right? And then you're going to touch my hamburger? I don't think so. I don't need your spit. Thank you. So what happens here is you take your money, as I said, just a stupid little thing, and you have it standing up in your money box. 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s underneath. It's very easy to walk by them and get lost in the crowd. We have found that to have happened in the past. You need to just be safe than sorry. If you have your money this way and the 10s are sort of on the bottom, but you're really busy, so there might be some 10s sort of, and you're going like this, it's like you don't have time to handle money. You have time to meet customers' needs quickly and get them out of your hair. So you can take care of more people who have more money. That's the name of the game. We can talk like this. You can't really talk like this out on the street because it sounds crass and crude. We can be crass and crude in here all we want. Because the name of the game here is this. We have to work together to make as much money as is humanly possible so that you can do as much as you possibly can for those people that you are dealing with in your organizations. So, what does that mean? The banks close normally at noontime. Savings Bank Walpole is open until 2 in the afternoon. Sometimes it gets a little hairy to have to leave your site and then come all the way back. You need to plan well in advance for that. Okay? So all of a sudden, I've just been bombarded with, I'm exaggerating, 50 customers that have given me $100 bills for a $4.50 order. After you've decided you really want to kill them, and you can't, you have to go to the booths near you and say, hey, can you give me a hand? All right? You are not greedy, you are not territorial, we are all a family, we work together. And that could go for almost anything. We've run out of napkins, we've got 80,000 people downtown, and we only have an hour left. It's not worth trying to run out to Hannaford's to pick up another thing of napkins. Borrow them from the people next door. We are a family. What can you be guaranteed to sell? Food. That's about it. And that's all you can do. You are not allowed to sell something that you cannot eat and swallow. All right? So if you're trying to raffle off Mother's Afghan, I want to see if you're doing it with mustard or ketchup. And don't tell me if it binds you up or not, because I really don't care. All right? So the other thing that I would tell you is, if the item that you are thinking of can be prepared in advance, the day before, then do it. Do not plan that you're going to be able to do everything smoothly and easily right there. I normally tell the people, oh, I forgot to tell you, this is 1791. It is not 2012. Electricity really hasn't been thought of too much by that point in time. So don't you think about it either, because we don't have a whole lot of electricity available. I can remember times when we had to go scurrying to the large commercial electric companies for these humongous fans and take off the covers of the electrical boxes downtown and having the fans shoot full blast cool air because the things were ready to melt down. And the city was of it because people were bringing these small heaters just to keep their feet warm because it was so cold. It's like, put on some snowmobile boots. They'll keep your feet warm too, and they don't take electricity. Because if we come around and we find that you've got them, we're going to unplug and maybe take away until it's all over and you can come and get it afterwards. You cannot use, everyone cannot use 5 crock pots and think that multiplying that by 44 vendors is going to work and that we're going to have enough electricity for it. It doesn't work. So again, I'm not sure if electricity of any major sort has been invented for October. That might come in November, so plan accordingly. Little Christmas lights are really nice, and I'm sure that's candle power. You might, for safety reasons, need a light bulb with those aluminum cones around it that magnifies the thing. Doesn't need a 150 watt light bulb. A 60 or a 75 will also do. All right, so we need to tone back. Propane will be available. We need to know if you need it. To my knowledge, and I'm looking for a yes or a no, that probably will be donated and by Rhymes, and if it is, you really need to send them a letter of thanks. Not just a letter of thanks, but a letter with a fictitious number, dollar-wise, of thanks, because then they can write this off themselves. So first of all, we really want to thank you, and you really do want to thank them, because if they didn't provide it, you might not have it. Then you'll really be up a creek with a leaky canoe and no paddles, as far as being able to get heat to whatever you're doing. Generators are not allowed. Picture, if you will, 44 generators and people deciding, oh, it's running low, I think I'll just add some more gasoline while this thing is running. And just see how we're all going to look up in the emergency room up at the hospital. That's not going to be a pretty picture. So generators of that nature are not allowed, okay? You can still keep things warm on a propane grill, all right? If you're doing soups, stay away from anything with a milk base, because if you're going to keep that baby warm for 4 or 5 hours, unless you have a jackhammer to take off all that chunked on, burnt on milk or cream or whatever on the bottom of the pan, you're going to throw the pan out. So much for some of your profits. All right? Soups are best if they are more water-based than cream or milk-based. Stay away from those completely. If you are thinking of doing sub-sandwiches, and I'll say this, and this is going to sound like a sexist comment. I don't mean it to be. Women,